Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Hank Sutalo, the Sonic Shaman, and I'm here with my teacher, Zane Curfman, the author of Inca Mountain Magic and the founder of the Katari tradition of cross-cultural shamanism and the art of spiritual healing. And we were just going to kind of take a deep dive today into his history and what brought him here today to be able to offer this amazing thing to the world. So my first question to you, Zane, is we often hear about hearing the call of the shaman, and people I see in forums all the time, how do you know if you're a shaman, and all these things. So my first question to you is, what was your calling? How did you hear the call of the shaman and start to foster that? And then as a follow-up, how can people know if they're hearing the call?
Absolutely. So for me, it was early on in my life. I'm not even sure how early, teenager years, maybe a little bit before. But I had always worked as kind of a counselor for my friends. My father was a Baptist missionary preacher, and that just kind of puts you in a spiritual authority role, even if you know nothing. So a lot of people would come to me and they would ask questions, and I would kind of counsel them a little bit through different types of things. Then really to think of shamanism, once it just kind of hit me. I was always interested in indigenous cultures. I am part indigenous myself, but we didn't have any connection to the tribes, in my background. So I always wanted to connect more deeply with that. Now, the particular path that I ended up on happened after I was serving as a healer. I had already been doing healings for people, and this rainbow serpent spirit came to me, and we called it Tulsi. And it taught me many different types of things. One of the things it taught me was a type of psychic surgery, which is really what we would call fluid extractions, extracting energy, obtrusive energies and entities from people, and crystalline extractions, extracting energy that is crystallized and is creating some kind of illness within the person. So it taught me that naturally, but it taught me this other technique, which was to bring the illness or to bring the energy into your navel, to bring it into your stomach and to separate the light out of it and use that light to heal, use that light to advance my own enlightenment. And that was something so unique and strange. Now, I'm very young still at this time. And so I would start wondering, am I making this all up? Because we all have moments of doubt and things like that, especially when we're naturals at what we do and we've received little training. We can get really concerned. Hey, did I make that up? Where did that come from? So I started looking around the world and I started seeing if any culture, any people do this technique. And I found that there were Tibetan Rinpoches and people in the bone tradition that did something that's called like the transformational breath. And I think that's also made its way into certain lineages of Reiki, but where you would breathe the energy in and then transform it and pump it back out. But it still wasn't bringing the energy into your stomach and transforming it. And then I found a little known group of indigenous people who lived in the high mountains above Cusco, Peru. They were called the Quero. And the Quero had this technique. And especially some of the Quero and some of the Quechuan Indians that lived closer to the city of Cusco, there was a lineage called the Huascar tradition, which comes from Huascar Inca, the last officially selected Inca. It was a royal priesthood. And they had this technique of digesting heavy energy, of eating heavy energy, of eating the sickness. And it was exactly the same as what I was taught. And then just to push that over the edge, I started looking for people who had worked with them. And of course, the first person I found was Alberto Villoldo, because he had written so many books, and he was one of the people who made the Incan traditions known. But then eventually I found this man named Juan Núñez del Prado, and it was another spiritual synchronicity there. The picture I see of him, he's sitting on a stone with his hand like this, all dressed in white. Well, that was the exact image I saw about a year before as a spirit guide who was teaching me. And that I was calling Lahochi Master, because he had like a little Fu Manchu beard. And Juan had like this little beard in this picture like that. And it blew me away, because that was exactly how he came to me in the journey and the vision that I saw a year earlier. So I knew he was the right teacher for me. Then I found out that his father was the one that, quote unquote, discovered the Q'ero in the 50s. So that kind of brought me into that tradition.
Wonderful. And I know, like for myself, it was very serendipitous that my friend just gifted me a set of Chumpy stones, and then that led me to seek you out. So similarly, you looked for a teacher to figure out something that you had been taught or knew, and I did the same thing. I was gifted these things, didn't know how to use them, reached out to you, and that's where we started working together to offer these apprenticeships and these different schools of spiritual healing. What would you say? What's a sign for people to look for that they have this call of the shaman, or this call to really cultivate these indigenous knowledges and things from different traditions?
Well, it really is kind of unique for each person, but you have experiences you can't explain. You have moments of power that you can't understand how they happen, magical moments that happen very easily for you. You have a sickness that is strange as can be, and then you recover from it mysteriously. These are classical signs that you're being called. But underneath it all, it's this yearning that you know that there's more to reality than what you've been taught. That you know there's more to the world than what most people will allow themselves to experience, and that you effortlessly have these different experiences. That's how you know you're being called, is that you feel like there's something greater for you, and you know that it has spirituality as the base. You know there's something greater for you, that your mission is to help others, and you know that there's more to this world than what most people are seeing. You feel things in the form of frequency and vibration. You walk into a room after people have been fighting, and even though they're not fighting anymore, you can feel the energy of the fight radiating there. You can tell, you're very empathic. You can tell what someone's feeling without them telling you they're feeling it. You can, another sign is that you were easily able to manipulate things and situations. You understood how to just manipulate things. All of that shows to you that there's something greater in the world, that there's some greater force, and that you're part of this greater force in the world. That's how I would kind of put it. But it's very unique for each person.
Absolutely. And one thing I just want to frame that word manipulate, because a lot of people have a bad connotation sometimes with that word, but it's simply a skillful handling of the energy. It's not to thwart anybody's will or anything like that. It's just changing the situation to smooth out with ease, is the way I like to say it.
Yeah, exactly. And what I was meaning is, like, when you were a young child, you knew how to get to the sweet spot with people.
Yeah.
You
My
knew how
kids
to
really
make
have
them
that
light
down.
up. You knew how to bring out that light inside of them. And that's what I really meant by manipulate. You knew how to orchestrate the energy to bring out the best of someone.
Yeah. And my next question, for people who are like me, I call myself a recovering Lutheran. I had a lot of Christianity ingrained as when I was young. And when I started to awaken spiritually, I found a huge conflict with the things that really resonated with my soul, with what I taught. And I know you also had a foundation in religion. What would you say to people who feel this call, but they have this resistance because of the indoctrination of religion or other ways that they were brought up?
I would say that there's to always remember these are spiritual practices. They're not religions. There's nothing within the spiritual practice that is actually against any particular religion. But what it is your one-on-one relationship with the divine. And I know all religions say, oh, yeah, you have a closer walk with Jesus and stuff like that. Well, these traditions allow you to sit right there at the table with the God, with the divine, and communicate directly, and not to have to base your behaviors or your movements on something that was preordained for you, that you can communicate directly with the divine and then decide what movement you should make. It's but there's really nothing at all that is conflictory between it, because like the Q'ero, most of them would say they're Catholic. because the Catholicism that came to Peru in the 1600s believed that God talked to you. It was part of the Catholicism of that time that God could have a one-on-one interaction with you, and God talked to you through the mountains, through nature, through through circumstances, things like that. So for them, the Christianity that came to Peru, their traditions are completely in alignment with it. Of course, there's been a lot of fighting back and forth between traditions, and that's been going on forever, and hopefully will someday cease. But really, I would say go ahead and be brave. And as Jesus said in the Bible, you have to try the spirits to know them. How else will you know if they're good or bad unless you try them? And that's all I would say is, I don't need your faith. I don't need your belief. All I need is the benefit of your doubt. I'll show you some tools. You apply them to your life. And if they make your life better, then you'll develop faith from that.
Yeah. And we have had people from all walks of life come through the program. Now it's designed as a 9-month virtual apprenticeship with a couple options potentially to do things in person. But we've had people that were like financial advisors and wealth management people to entrepreneurs that have a store. And it's really the whole hearing the call of shaman is in a way a call to refine your inner light, to refine yourself, to take your shadow and or hucha as we call it in the tradition and really refine that. And did you find that that was your, because you kind of transition, you went and you learned all these things, but then there came a shift where it wasn't just about learning it, but you were also sharing it quite a bit and bringing now these programs and different opportunities, writing your book, Inca Mountain Magic, all these things to really share it with the world. Could you speak a bit about that, like the different ways that you could use the tradition in your life, depending, well, everybody is going to be a little bit different, but just in general, the different ways that the information from this can be used for cultivating oneself?
Absolutely. So the tradition is all about awakening something inside of yourself, which is your personal power. And your personal power decides everything in your life. It decides how you grow, how you heal, what gifts you have, what potentials you have in this world, and eventually how you'll die. All of that is based within your personal power, and that's something innate to you. What the tradition actually does is it gives you a way to, one, measure your personal power, two, grow your personal power, to plant seeds in your personal power of certain types of manifestations you would like. For me personally, this tradition took me from being a poor boy born in West Virginia, born to a Baptist missionary preacher who we were very impoverished. It took me from that place to where I was traveling countries, taking people on trips to Peru, where I have seen people heal from catastrophic traumas and change their entire life. And that's what the tradition has. That's what it can do for you. It can change your life. It can bring out the best version of yourself. We say in the program that it teaches you how to be a spiritual healer, mentor, and visionary, but that's really narrow-minded. That's just like the sound bite, that's just like, hey, this is at the base what you can get from this program. But what it really does is it awakens that seed inside of you. It awakens you to yourself, to your own uniqueness. And it shows you it helps you realize what you came here to do and new ways that you might be able to do it, things that you never thought of before. It awakens gifts in you that you're all of a sudden like, wait a second, I can speak in front of people. Wow, I didn't know I had that gift. Wait a minute, I can heal someone. Wait a minute, I can sing. I can create art. And it's all of these things. And by awakening those gifts and by honoring those gifts, that's what turns you into the shaman, if you will. That's what turns you into the person of power, the person of wisdom, is that you're honoring who you truly are. And that's different for every one of us. But the tradition, regardless of what your gifts are, it has a tried and true way, a process for developing those gifts. Then once you develop them and you start to express those gifts, then the grace of the divine expresses itself through you. And you become a light on other people's paths. You don't even have to try to. All you have to do is awaken who you are and become the best version of yourself.
That's wonderfully said. I think that's a great place. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add for people that we haven't asked yet that you think would be really relevant for people to really get to know you and where you come from with the tradition. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to what we've already talked about and asked?
I'm drawing blanks right now, but there's all kinds of ways to find out more about me. Wild Heart Medicine, wildheartsmedicine.com is my website. There, of course, please check out the program that we're offering. It's a 9-month deep spiritual development program that is geared towards you becoming spiritual healer, mentor, and visionary. But truly, it's about you awakening your spiritual gifts and living your dreams and purpose.
Right. And in the description of this video, there's going to be a description of the program. There's going to be links so you can see when the next one is coming up, because we don't know in time and space. This might be years after we recorded that you might be watching this video. So you can always check out the description to get the websites to find the most recent offerings. And I couldn't recommend enough. Pick up a copy of Income Out Magic. That gives you a wonderful little synopsis of a lot of the different components of the tradition, some of the Quechua words. And that was when I really fell in love with the tradition. It was for my first ceremony with Zane, where we were chanting Pachamama, and it just lit up my soul. And I was like, this is it. This is what's been calling me this entire time. It just took me a while to find it and to connect with Zane. And my whole life has changed since. And I'm sure that anybody who takes it, your life will change too. But Zane, thank you so much for being here with us, and we look forward to our next interview.